If you are a current client looking for support on your retirement account, press 4. If you are
We'll get started in just a minute. My wife's on a phone call real quick. Thank you for being here, Fair Girl Freestyles. I appreciate it. Today we're going to be listening to a press release from Los Angeles County. This came out 11 days ago, I think it said.
11 days.
Yeah, 11 days ago. I do have it on playback speed 1.75. That way we can kind of get through it. So without further ado, I'm not actually going to show it, but any kind of information on it I will discuss with you guys. So without any further ado, here we go.
It is a multi-billion-dollar business, and Los Angeles unfortunately has a tragic distinction of being one of the nation's capitals of human trafficking. Now, what is human trafficking?
Please.
Human trafficking is the illegal commercial exploitation by force, fear, fraud, or coercion of individuals for either sex purposes or labor purposes. And the reason we are here in this Figueroa corridor is especially to call attention to where it is located. It is located up and down the blocks of where we are standing right now. You will see in both the press release, we have hyperlinked videos showing that what we are talking about the young girls or women who are engaged in this sex exploitation by pimps and human traffickers that is occurring right here. The photographs you have on either side of this podium are ones taken from this spot. Now, this used to be an activity. The only time you could see it was at night.
Is that,
but not anymore.
Should I slow down a little bit? Or is that good?
And it's usually young girls and women that represent over 95% of the human trafficking, the sex slave population out there. They are some of the most vulnerable population in our society. They have no defenses. That are getting recruited by these traffickers on the internet. They are runaways. They are people from the foster system, where they basically aged out of the foster system and ended up right here on these streets. This is completely hard. It is a multi-billion-dollar business, and Los Angeles, unfortunately, has a tragic distinction of being one of the nation's capitals of human trafficking. Now, what is human trafficking? Human trafficking is the illegal commercial exploitation by force, fear, fraud, or coercion of individuals for either sex purposes or labor purposes. And the reason we are here in this Figueroa corridor is especially to call attention to where it is located. It is located up and down the blocks of where we are standing right now. You will see in both the press release, we have hyperlinked videos showing that what we are talking about the young girls or women who are engaged in this sex exploitation by pimps and human traffickers that is occurring right here. The photographs you have on either side of this podium are ones taken from this spot. Now, this used to be an activity.
Yes, it is a horrendous.
The only time you could see it was at night, but not anymore. These photographs were taken during the day. And it's usually young girls and women that represent over 95% of the human trafficking, the sex slave population out there. They are some of the.
Let me clear some things up with some people, because I'm sure I know there's people out there who question why I do this and whatever, but I wish, if I had one wish, my wish would be to make all of this shit go away so we didn't have to discuss topics like this.
Yeah.
I really wish we could sit here every single day and have a good time and drink some beers and smoke some blunts and do whatever the hell we wanted. But not paying attention to this only makes the problem worse.
the most vulnerable population in our society. They have no defenses.
What's
They're
up,
getting
Hunter?
recruited by these traffickers on the internet. They are runaways. They are people from the foster system, where they basically aged out of the foster system and ended up right here on these streets. This is completely unacceptable. This is disgraceful. And what you will hear is that there have been regional task forces that have worked incredibly hard to bring these human traffickers to justice. There's a Los Angeles South Bureau Human Trafficking Task Force. There's a Los Angeles County Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. We are joined here today by members of the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office, the Long Beach City Attorney's Office, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Police Department. We are joined by members of the District Attorney of Los Angeles County's office. We are joined as well by the Pomona Police Department Chief, Michael Ellis, the Southgate Police Department Chief, Darren Arakawa, and the Inglewood Police Department Chief, Mark Fronterata. And we are joined as a unified front because I want to send a message to the human traffickers who are engaging in these despicable acts. The question is not if, but when you will be arrested, when you will be prosecuted, and when you will be sentenced. And when you are sentenced, we are going to seek the maximum punishment. Let me give you an idea what that looks like.
So, I forget what this gentleman's name is, but this dude is not screwing around. I have a lot of faith in him. This prosecutor right here is my Monday hero. So, I know this took place 11 days ago, but I'm telling you right now, I know exactly what he's doing right now.
Recently, we have brought a case against Darren Atkins. Darren Atkins engaged, as the charges have shown, in human trafficking, sex trafficking, right here on this Figueroa corridor, involving a minor, a young girl under the age of 18, and one just over the age of 18. Darren Atkins, as the charges establish or will establish in court, and I want to make it very clear when we talk about charges. Charges are not evidence. Charges are not evidence. Everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But we will prove these people guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in court. And Darren Atkins will be looking, because of his background, at 70 years to life in prison if convicted on all charges.
Woo!
Fabian Gilbert was charged recently, again, with respect to a felony count of pandering and one count of felony possession of a firearm. He faces a special allegation of a felony offense while out on bail. He is looking at 8 years and 8 months as a maximum term in prison. Kevin Thomas has been charged recently for involvement with various types of human trafficking offenses. He is looking at a maximum sentence of 12 years in prison. And those are the ones we have recently gone ahead and charged with these crimes. But over the last 6 months, there have been a number of individuals that the human trafficking task forces have arrested, the DA's office has prosecuted, and actually received very long sentences.
Now, all we can hope for is the prosecutor does their job, and this is the prosecutor. So I'm hoping, I got my fingers crossed, that he does what he's supposed to do, and he doesn't walk into the courtroom and offer these parasites a plea bargain for less time and less charges. I want to see a prosecutor step up to the plate and nail these motherfuckers' balls to the wall. All of them. Oh, yeah. Male and female, I don't care who they are. If they're involved in this shit, they need to be nailed to the wall. Maximum sentences for everyone who participates in this shit. Like he says at the beginning of this. You know what I mean?
Let me give you a few examples. Tyrell Davenport, convicted on all charges, 2 counts of human sex trafficking, 1 count of human sex trafficking as a minor. And the reason that's important is that the state legislature recently passed legislation that said if you are involved with human trafficking of a minor, someone under 18, that is a serious and violent offense and constitutes a strike offense. So if you have 2 prior violent and serious crimes on your record, and this is your 3rd, you will then now be looking at a sentence up to life in prison. And let me give you.
That's good, but I don't agree with the 3rd chance. 2's enough.
3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, 2's enough. 2 strikes, you're done.
Yeah.
Why not 1? Why not 1? People can change their lives. Well, obviously they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially with that offense.
Especially with this offense.
Mm-hmm.
1 strike, you're fucking done. Sorry, I'm really working on that, you guys.
I'll give you an example using Mr. Davenport's facts that were proven to a jury of the type of situation that we are facing here on the Figueroa corridor. Mr. Davenport forced one of his victims to travel with him to different areas, held her against her will, threatened her with violence, used physical force to assault her, and coerce her to work as his sex slave. He then branded her with a tattoo of his trafficking moniker, IBN. He put
Now
that
she's- now
IBN
she's marked for life.
on her body. It stood for It's Better Now. It didn't stand for It's Better Now. It stand for Mr. Davenport engaged in one of the more despicable acts you can engage in our society with that victim. And because he had 2 prior strikes, Mr. Davenport was sentenced to 75 years to life.
Woo.
Martell Neal, again, another individual recently in the last 6 months who's been convicted on all charges involving human trafficking, pimping, kidnapping, sexual battery, and forcible rape. He was sentenced to 87 years to life. He was a serial sexual offender and a violent sex trafficker. He duped one minor individual into a sexual relationship, quickly morphed into her pimp, and sex trafficked her for several months. He repeatedly beat, strangled, violently sexually assaulted, threatened to kill this victim, and held her small child captive as a means of forcing her to continue working in the sex trade for his financial benefit. Right here on this Figueroa corridor. We have numerous other cases that have been prosecuted and will be prosecuted. But I'd like to now turn the podium over to the other law enforcement officials who are here, who can tell you about the federal, state, county, and city efforts to go after these human traffickers. We'll turn it over then to law enforcement as well to describe law enforcement's efforts in these regards. And then you'll hear from Alia Azaraya, a survivor victim. We'll tell you what she and her experiences were all about and what she is doing to help victims who are going through this situation. So let me now turn it over to Acting United States Attorney Joseph T. McNally.
Good morning. My name is Joe McNally. I'm the Acting United States Attorney. And we're here today, as the District Attorney said, because there's nothing more important than protecting the most vulnerable members of our society.
That's right, baby.
That is our
That's
children.
right.
The problem of human trafficking right here in the Figueroa corridor is substantial. Sex traffickers come both here locally and from out of state. They use and they traffic minors like commodities, and all for personal profit. The victims here are youth. They come from foster homes. They're often the most vulnerable members of our society. Addressing this problem, as the District Attorney said, requires all of us to come together in a whole of government approach. And that is what we've been doing for over the last year. All of us here together are committed to aggressively investigating, prosecuting, and working with community partners to solve the problems here. Let me talk a little bit about our work and some of our goals on the federal side. As you know, our law enforcement partners at the LAPD, the Sheriff's Department, and other law enforcement agencies do fantastic work in this area.
So Temper says, solving this is like building a house. Once you have a dedicated team, the job is done in record time. But if you don't, you've got a problem. Maybe it's just me thinking this way, in my opinion. Absolutely not.
Absolutely. I agree.
I agree. I absolutely agree. You have to have cooperation from every angle.
Yeah.
You have to have people that are dedicated to making a change and making it stop.
It takes a team.
It takes an army. It takes an army to stand up to a problem that's this big. That's a perfectly well put point.
Well said.
Temper.
Yes.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said.
Absolutely.
If anybody wants to come up on panel with me and we can discuss this together, I'm more than willing to have anybody come up if you would like to. Just let me know. I'll put the link down here in the chat. I'm really glad you're here with us today, Temper. I really do appreciate it. That's a very good point. I'm actually going to leave that point up there for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the video.
What we bring to the table as the federal government, the U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, Homeland Security, is working these cases as long-term strategic enterprise cases. We bring our resources to bear on sex trafficking involving minors and other individuals who are often using these minors, not just here in the Figueroa corridor, but trafficking them in Las Vegas and elsewhere. Let me talk about a couple of cases that we brought recently that I think demonstrate to all of you the gravity of the criminal conduct here. United States versus O'Neill was a case that we brought in the last year. There, the defendant transported 2 minors, including a 13-year-old girl, across state lines to engage in prostitution. The defendant in that case was a violent pimp. He forced the girls to work not only here in Figueroa, but also in Las Vegas. He forced them to transfer between here and Las Vegas. And we have video footage putting 13-year-old minor right here in the Figueroa corridor who we forced to work the blade. That defendant has been indicted and faces substantial charges. Let me be clear what I mean when I talk about substantial charges. We're talking about pursuing life sentences. United States versus Bradford is a case that we brought last year. There, the defendant would recruit girls from foster care to work as prostitutes for him. He had filmed himself having sex with 13-year-old children. One of those girls said she wanted to stop, and he proceeded over video to commit despicable acts. He was tried, convicted, and ultimately sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
Hell yeah.
Did you hear what he just said? 13-year-old girl
Foster care.
from foster care being trafficked between LA County and Las Vegas, pimping her out. One thing about this is yes, these traffickers are horrible, despicable people. But if there wasn't a market out there for this business wouldn't be in existence.
Yeah.
All the people that participate in this are just as low down and dirty as the people that are
They all keep it
pimping them
going.
out.
They all keep it going.
Absolutely.
I want to thank the district attorney for his leadership here, the city attorney's office. This is truly a whole of government approach that prosecutors' offices are aggressive on, but we're fully supported by the leaders at the LAPD, the sheriff's department, and the many others in the region. And there's a lot of work to be done here, and we look forward to continue to work with our partners. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to introduce Los Angeles Assistant City Attorney Scott Marcus.
Good morning. I'm Scott Marcus. I'm the Chief Assistant City Attorney for the City of Los Angeles.
Well, Temper, I do appreciate you just being here. So the fact that you're being here while you're at work means the world to me. I appreciate it, Temper.
Interim Chief of the Criminal Branch. I'm here speaking on behalf of Los Angeles City Attorney Heidi Feldstein-Soto, who regrets she cannot attend this important press conference today. We'd like to thank our District Attorney, Nathan Hochman, for his leadership and for bringing us together to highlight our collective efforts to combat sex trafficking along the Figueroa corridor. For too long, this neighborhood has been an epicenter of sexual exploitation and violence. Since day one of taking office, combating sex trafficking of minors has been...
Sorry. Fair Girls Freestyle says, this behavior been rampant for centuries, especially in churches and government establishments, made to house orphans. For this to continue and to be widespread and common, people at the top turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
They have for
100%.
years and decades, yeah.
100% on point, Fair Girl.
Absolutely.
100% on point. Too many people turn a blind eye to this problem. I caught myself that time.
Good job.
Too many people turn a blind eye to this problem. And it's because of that is why it's so bad, and it's why it's how it is right now. That's why it is as bad as it is now. Because of that reason. Such a detrimental thing, and people want to ignore it. It's crazy to me.
Or they're scared to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it.
Or they don't want to talk about serious shit. It's ridiculous. Well, I don't want to talk about it either, but I have to. Because it's that important. Because nobody else is out there talking about it. Okay, yes, there are a few people out there talking about it, but not enough. There are not enough people out there talking about this problem.
It's been a top priority for the city attorney, and she has brought the resources of the criminal branch, the public rights branch, and the real estate branch to these efforts. As you know, the city attorney is the chief prosecutor for all criminal misdemeanors committed by adults in city limits. Our office prosecutes Johns and pimps for misdemeanors. We also bring civil and regulatory enforcement actions, including nuisance abatement and permit revocations for motels and other businesses that have become significant crime magnets. Our objectives for this work include helping our kids and human trafficking victims leave the life and find a better path, disrupting the Johns and the demand along what is known as the kiddie stroll, an area of prostitution and trafficking that features young victims and minors, stopping the illegal activity of motels and other businesses, and holding predators and profiteers accountable. Last year, we formed a multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional task force with Mayor Bass, Council President Harris Dawson, and the LAPD, whose leadership has been instrumental in the success of our joint effort. This task force was formed with the goal of implementing a comprehensive and whole-of-government approach to the work. Together, we have been leveraging our respective resources and authorities to ensure a seamless coordination in the areas of prevention, enforcement, and victim support.
I think this is a very, very, very valid point right here too, Temper. Temper says, in every movie, there's always some rich tycoon behind it. Every flipping time. Doesn't that tell you something? It's the upper table that's really benefiting off of this lucrative business. $238 billion a year industry inside the United States is human trafficking. $238 billion a year. It's so big, they not just call it a business, they refer to it as the human trafficking industry. An industry. Let that sink in, people.
The city attorney's office has had a number of successes. Last year, we secured a guilty verdict against a 49-year-old man charged with 3 misdemeanors, including solicitation of prostitution from a minor, a 14-year-old girl. His conviction requires him to register as a sex offender. We are also focused on significant problematic locations, ecosystems of illegal activity, using California's red light abatement law, public nuisance law, and unfair competition law. In October, we sued the owner of the Sun Motel, which we allege is an anchor of violent and escalating criminal activity in the clutches of a criminal street gang. Since 2020, it has been the site of at least 7 shootings, over 30 arrests by LAPD, and the recovery of 14 loaded firearms, plus numerous investigations of trafficking, sexual assaults, robberies, carjacking, and sales of narcotics. We successfully litigated a nuisance abatement lawsuit against the New Gage Motel, resulting in a judgment for the people, including a 1-year closure of the motel, civil penalties, and a 10-year injunction upon its reopening. In doing so, we did not forget the women who were living in that hotel, who had already been victimized, and we worked to resettle and find alternative housing for approximately 40 women who were there. We also worked with our city's planning department to get use permits revoked when motel owners fail to clean up their businesses, even after repeated requests from the LAPD and from the city attorney's office. The 108 Motel was declared a public nuisance and has been demolished. The New Bay Motel, Boulevard Motel, and Highlight Motel all had their use permits revoked to ensure code compliance. And the Magic Carpet Inn, Broadway Inn, and the Foxy Motel each had conditions imposed upon them to mitigate adverse public nuisance impacts. And our work is continuing. We have numerous other investigations and have conversations underway with other businesses in the vicinity. And we have made tremendous strides on behalf of the victims. In addition to the women who we found housing, we have assisted 183 juveniles, the youngest of which was 11 years old. We've provided assistance to 22 adults. Nearly 2,000 Johns have received Dear John letters, and more than 190 perpetrators and pimps were arrested or cited. This includes 66 felony pimping and pandering arrests, 68 human trafficking arrests, and 85 supervising prostitution arrests. We are going to expand this initiative to the Valley because we now have a blueprint that works. Our focus on human trafficking has exposed loopholes in our state laws that the city attorney is working to strengthen as well. For anyone watching who wants to get out of this life, please call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888. The city attorney would like to recognize some dedicated and talented attorneys from her office who are working on these efforts. Khalil Rashid and Laura Drino from the criminal branch. In addition, our line prosecutors who handle the cases on a day-to-day basis, such as Ralston Henry, who secured the guilty verdict I mentioned before, Leora Foreman-Eccles from the public rights branch, and Chuck Sewell from the real estate branch. Thank you.
All heroes
Our
in
next
my book.
speaker shows us that the problem of human trafficking is not limited to the Figueroa corridor, but there is human trafficking, unfortunately, throughout Los Angeles County. I'd now like to introduce Long Beach City Prosecutor Doug Halbert.
Good morning. My name is Doug Halbert, and I have the honor and privilege of serving the people of Long Beach as their elected city prosecutor. The first thing I wanted to say this morning was to commend the district attorney and to thank him for making this a priority in his administration. As everyone knows, the district attorney has a number of problems to address, and the fact that he took this as an issue that needs to be addressed first gives me great hope. The city of Long Beach, of course, is the second largest city in Los Angeles County. I've been a city prosecutor for 25 years. I've also been the past president of the Los Angeles County Prosecutors Association. So I know I speak on behalf of my own city and all the cities that we are here to work with the district attorney and our local law enforcement agencies to combat human trafficking. I want to note that we cannot combat human trafficking, any one of us alone. This is going to require multi-jurisdictional cooperation. That's why it is so important, and I'm so glad.
Did you hear what he just said? Did you hear what he just said? We cannot combat this problem alone. We can't. It requires multiple people and agencies to get to the root of this problem. We have to stand together as one, man. I know it sounds stupid, but we have to. We have to unite for a bigger cause, you guys.
Glad to see so many agencies represented this morning working together. In addition to having a multi-agency or multi-jurisdictional approach, I'll also say that we're not going to combat human trafficking unless we have a strategic and comprehensive approach to the problem. We're not going to arrest our way out of this problem, and enforcement is only part of the strategy. I'm happy to hear about services being offered. In fact, in Long Beach, we have provided services to people who are trying to get out of the life for years. The very first law enforcement assisted diversion program in California was a pilot program along the Long Beach Boulevard track from North Long Beach into Compton and to Linwood. That was a pilot program funded by the state that proved that we can get people off the streets and into treatment. We are not going to be successful unless we have a strategy to provide services to people who have been victims of human trafficking and of pimping. So I'm glad that we are also looking at a comprehensive approach here as well. The last thing I would like to say is that as the city prosecutor of Long Beach, I've had the honor of working directly with Sheriff Robert Luna when he was police chief of the city of Long Beach. And I had the pleasure of working with Jim McDonald when he was both the sheriff of LA County and the police chief of Long Beach.
Right.
You are not going to find two more dedicated law enforcement professionals that have their skill set than those two individuals. I know they're not here this morning, but I wanted to acknowledge that the district attorney is not alone in heading up this effort. Having law enforcement leadership like that, as committed and as passionate to this issue as he is going to serve all of us well. Thank you very much for coming today.
Well, you've heard from prosecutors. Now I'd like you to hear from law enforcement. I'd like to introduce Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Special Victims Bureau Human Trafficking Task Force Captain Rich Ruiz.
And we will also be hearing from
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this press conference organized by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. I want to thank all our partners for continuing to bring attention to sex trafficking victims in our communities. My name is Rich Ruiz, and I serve as a unit commander for the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force, which is hosted by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The task force was formed in 2015 and is made up of partners from the local, state, and federal levels, including the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Homeland Security Investigations.
Fair Girl Freestyle says 238 billion. Holy friggin' moly.
Yeah.
Just within the United States, disgusting to think people engage in such putrid behavior. People pay so much. Then others charge so much, but the victims pay the most. Trauma. And I only said 238 billion because I couldn't remember if it said 238 or 298 billion. But I'm pretty sure it's 238 billion. Well, it's either 238 or 298 billion. Anyway. But you're right. You're right, Fair Girl. 100% right.
The Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services, the Los Angeles County Probation Department, the Los Angeles Airport Police Department, the Whittier Police Department, the California Highway Patrol, the Los Angeles Unified School District Police Department, and many other investigative agencies, as well as community-based organizations. Human trafficking is not just a global issue, it's a local crisis. It targets the most vulnerable among us, exploiting women, men, and children for profit. Here in Los Angeles County, we stand as a united front against this heinous crime. The mission of this task force is clear.
No, it's not. Okay, hang on.
And dismantle sex trafficking networks.
Okay, now say what you just said. Loud.
I just say, so it's just the common man that's able to buy these people, or is it like the elites, or like where's all this $200-something billion coming from?
It's everybody. It's from the elite down to the poor dude on the street. You can get a BJ for $20, bro.
And they're taking them from foster care. A lot of them are taking these kids from foster care, and
there's almost 60,000. There's almost 60,000 children a year that come up missing out of foster care in the United States that are never fucking seen again, dude. Yeah. Over 60,000 children, almost 60,000 children a year come up missing out of foster care and are never seen again, from ages of newborn to 18.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
Hey, $20 is $20, right?
Bring traffickers to justice and ensure survivors receive the support and resources they need to reclaim their lives. Our strategy includes three main pillars: prevention.
Guys. So Temper says, G2K, we need balance. It's no doubt we stop caring. It's no doubt we stop caring, and that means we stop sharing. So love got up and walked out of the door. And the way we live now, we ain't coming back no more unless we change. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely, Temper. 100%. I agree with you right there. Fair Girl Freestyle says, they got replaced by Cardi B and other crazy music that puts respect, morals, and wholesome living on the back burner. At Temper, such a shame, in my opinion. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Morals are walked out the door. Values have walked out the door. Pretty soon, right will be walked out the door. Absolutely. Very, very, very important points to make, you guys. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, man. See, it's streams like this that I'd like to see 25, 30 people in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I do appreciate all those that are here and that will watch this later. But I'm just saying, you know.
Enforcement and recovery. We're committed to breaking the cycle before it begins. This includes education by raising awareness in schools, community events, and public campaigns, and partnerships by working with community-based organizations to address the root causes of trafficking, such as poverty, homelessness, and a lack of access to resources. Our enforcement efforts are relentless. We utilize data and intelligence to identify trackers and their networks. We collaborate with federal, state, and local agencies to conduct operations targeting traffickers, including sting operations and surveillances. And we ensure that those who exploit others face the full force of the law. Since its inception in 2015, our task force has rescued 520 victims, 389 of them children, 132 adults, and arrested 2,817 suspected traffickers, pimps, sex buyers, and predators who victimize children on the internet.
Okay, let's listen to that part one more time, okay? I'll go back about 20 seconds, I believe.
Since its inception in 2015, our task force has rescued 520 victims.
520 victims.
389 of them children.
Almost 400 of them children.
132 adults.
132 adults. And arrested how many? Over 2,000.
Arrested 2,817 suspected traffickers, pimps, sex buyers, and predators who victimize children on the internet. Finally, we work with our social service and community-based organizations to assist law enforcement in offering victim resources, housing, food, and services to help them heal and begin the recovery process. Got a little more page here. To the residents of LA County, we ask for your partnership. Human sex trafficking is not someone else's problem. It's ours to solve together. Educate yourselves. Educate your loved ones. Talk to your children. And stay vigilant in your neighborhoods.
Yeah.
If you or someone
That's a good
you
point,
know needs
babe.
help,
Yeah.
please contact the Los Angeles.
Okay. Say what you just said again, babe.
That's only in LA County, those numbers.
That's just one county. Those numbers are from one fucking county.
That's not counting all the other states in the United States.
I thought I'd count all the other counties.
Yeah, it's not even counting all the other counties
Yeah,
in
that's what I'm
California.
saying.
Yeah,
Oh, I
like
know, but what
that's
I'm saying.
ridiculous.
It's only one fucking area.
Imagine how many. Imagine, people. Think about it. That's just LA County. That's not nationwide. That's just LA County. Good point, babe.
Regional Human Trafficking Task Force at 562-946-7960. Or you can call LA Crime Stoppers to remain anonymous at 1-800-222-8477. I will be here after the presentation.
And if you can't remember those numbers, remember you can always call 911. Okay? That is an emergency type situation. Just saying.
If you have any questions, thank you.
I'd now like to introduce Los Angeles Police Department Deputy Chief Amada Tingarides, Operations South Bureau.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for providing this space to bring awareness to something that is so critical occurring in our communities, and specifically in this community along this corridor. This concern did not just start 12 months ago. It has been a decades-long issue in South Los Angeles and LA County. And the message today is partnerships and ending the horrific crime of trafficking in this community. You heard a lot today about prosecution, prison sentencing, and the victimization of young men and women in this community. We also talked a lot about a comprehensive strategy. We are not going to arrest our way out of this issue. We have to have a public health approach. A lot of our victims have trauma post-traumatic stress, mental health, a lack of education, food insecurities, and they themselves have family members that were sexually abused or abused at one point. Prevention is huge in this issue that we are trying to address.
I just realized I was muted. So here we go. So Temper says he named every faction involved in helping. So a corruption sweep needs to be conducted privately, and then town and community meetings need to be done to promote this education.
100%.
I know I don't even need to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. We all know that there are people in positions of high power that are involved in this shit. Why do we know this? Because if they weren't, it wouldn't be relevant. This problem would not be in existence if people in positions of power.
He just named a few of them at the beginning.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, those are the
Yeah.
few of them are elites, I guarantee it.
Absolutely. But yes, educate people.
We're standing on the corner of Figueroa and 106th Street, the epicenter of this horrific crime. Standing shoulder to shoulder with us, we have our churches, community leaders, nonprofit organizations who collectively are saying enough is enough. And just because we are in South Los Angeles doesn't mean that we can't fix and address this issue. On behalf of Chief McDonald, he is committed to the cause. Our South Bureau Human Trafficking team is here. In 2023, we rescued 61 young women between the ages of 11 to 18 years old. In 2024, we doubled that number and rescued over 120 young women from this corridor right here on Figueroa. We are committed. We are engaging with our law enforcement partners, city, local, state, and federal. But most importantly, this public health approach, this comprehensive strategy working with Journey Out, with Forgotten Children, with our city attorney's office, with all of the other NGOs and nonprofits who are embracing our victims and finding a path on a way out. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our Chief of Detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department, Chief Alan Hamilton.
Thank you, Mata. I'm Alan Hamilton, Chief of Detectives. I'm going to discuss briefly some of the investigative efforts by our department working with our partners, but I first want to acknowledge the help and the assistance that we've received from all of our prosecuting agencies, our fellow law enforcement agencies throughout Los Angeles County and the region, and also the assistance that we've received from non-governmental organizations like Journey Out and some of the other organizations that continue to provide care and assistance to these trafficking victims as we exit them from that life and get them back on track and get them returned to their families and get them, away from the scourge that we have here today. From the investigative side, I just want to make a couple of things very clear. We've talked about some of the efforts that we're making out here along the Figueroa corridor and throughout really the county of Los Angeles. I want to address this as actually more of
So Fairgrove Freestyles says, have you guys seen the videos about the royal queen visit to Canada? I think it was about 40 or 50 years ago. They went to an indigenous school and then a bunch of them went missing. It's not surprising.
Yeah.
It's not. The indigenous people are some of the most are at the top of the list when it comes to being violently hurt and trafficked and all that. What's up, Ottawa? I can't call you what I normally call you because this isn't the proper time for it. But what's up, bro? Let's get back to listening to this.
of a regional.
Fairgirl, if you could find that video and like tell me what the name of it is or whatever, I'd love to watch it for sure. Because I haven't seen it.
And Western United States approach. It is well known by our investigators that these human traffickers operate throughout the Western United States. We know there are tracks in Seattle, in Phoenix, in Las Vegas, in Hawaii, in Sacramento, San Francisco, San Diego.
we know where these connections are made. What we're doing now that's a little bit differently is we're coordinating very closely with all these other agencies and bringing that information in and developing that intel to make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck and we're utilizing our resources in the most efficient manner. So physically, you can expect on the investigative level that many of these human traffickers are going to be surveilled, monitored, and prosecuted here locally. But beyond that, we're going to go out regionally. We're going to work with Seattle Police Department. We're going to work with Clark County in Las Vegas. We're going to work with other agencies very closely and make sure that these individuals that are trafficking our kids here in the city of Los Angeles have nowhere to hide. So we're going to follow them where they go after they traffic here to assist these other agencies around the Western United States to continue that pressure on them and remind them that they came through Los Angeles, they're trafficking people here, and we have not forgotten it. We're going to bring them to justice and bring them to prosecution here. The other part, many of the people that are involved in being victimized here, they're reached out to through social media. Parents, I'm going to give the same admonition I've given the last few years regarding your children and their use of social media. You need to monitor the use of social media by your children. I'm telling you right now, human traffickers are reaching out to your children on social media, and they're selling a bill of goods that is going to lead to destruction of lives. Please, please, please monitor your children's social media use and know where they're going online. We are going to be following these suspects all over social media, all over cyberspace, conducting investigations, serving search warrants, obtaining evidence, and bringing them back to the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, and this region to face justice. As my partners here on the left have said, they're looking for good quality cases, and the Los Angeles Police Department, along with our partners, are going to deliver good quality cases for good quality prosecution. Gone are the days where traffickers could go to different jurisdictions and seek safety and refuge because they were confident that there was not going to be strong follow-up and strong prosecution. We will bring them back here to Los Angeles to face charges. Our fugitive detectives will go out and find them wherever they are and bring them back here to LA County to face justice. So I want to make sure that message is loud and clear. And in closing, in speaking for Amada and for Chief McDonald and all of our partners, the Los Angeles Police Department will continue to work very closely with our partners in bringing each and every one of these individuals trafficking people out here on the corridor and in the city to justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As you've heard from law enforcement, whether the prosecutors or the law enforcement officers themselves, enforcement is a huge priority, but so too is prevention, so too is rescue, so too is recovery. I'd now like to introduce you to Alia Azariah, a survivor leader, someone who has been a sex trafficking victim, but has channeled that experience to make sure she now helps others survive and go through that situation. She's the director of Aftercare, a safe house project. Alia.
Thank you for having me today and spending your Wednesday morning talking about such a difficult issue. Like DA Hockman said, my name is Alia Azariah. I'm the director of Aftercare for a national anti-trafficking organization called Safe House Project. But before that, in 2003, I was a 12-year-old girl from Ventura County who was bought and sold all over Southern California. And if there was one thing that perpetuated my trafficking and that my trafficker used to control me and to groom me into exploitation, it was the belief that nobody cared about me. It was the idea that my community, my family, and society as a whole saw me as less than human and worthy of being bought and sold. My story is not unique in that way. It's reflective of the hundreds of thousands of American kids who are trafficked every year, hundreds of which are trafficked on this corridor on Figueroa.
Hundreds of thousands of children that are trafficked every year in this country.
American children.
Yeah. American children. That's not counting the kids. That's not counting the ones that are being brought into the country and the ones that have gotten out of the country, that have been taken out of the country.
Yeah.
That's just inside the United States, within our borders, you guys. That number is not acceptable. If that doesn't emotionally move you in some way, you need to go have your head examined.
It's horrible.
Many of whom I know by name, many of whom I know as resilient overcomers starting on their journey to healing, who were victimized at their most vulnerable.
Fairgrow says, I think that's a video about it. I just did a quick YouTube search. I bet half of the videos on this topic have been removed. But Temper, Dr. Finkelstein may talk about it as well. I guarantee you most of the videos about this will be removed. And I'll bet you after this gets done being aired out, that after I end this, I'll probably get struck. I'll probably, and I don't care. It probably won't be able to find it after a day or two. So Temper says, G2K, I applaud what you're doing here and know that if it takes you to spearhead this organization set up and take the wheel, it only takes a spark to get a fire going.
Yeah.
Thanks, Timber. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I just want to make this. I just want to let people. I don't do this for recognition reasons. I don't do this to I do this because it's something that needs to be done, and there's not many people out there doing it. It's for children. I know I wasn't trafficked. I'll never say I was, because I wasn't. I was hurt by a couple of different people, and I know what damage that did to me. So that's why I do what I'm doing. That's why I do this. Is because no child should ever have to feel these kind of things from this action. They just shouldn't.
One child's too many.
Right, Fairgirl. She says, "Wow." Fairgirl says, "Wow, oh my God." Just so glad she is standing strong and speaking out.
Yeah.
She didn't deserve the abuse. Nobody does. But it is great to see her standing strong after the things she has experienced.
Oh, yeah. Inspiration. People like that are inspiring to me.
Yes. It's people like this that give me the strength to keep on doing what I'm doing.
Who were assaulted and abused and groomed and ultimately trafficked by our community, by people within our society, who oftentimes get to go home when these youth have nowhere to go. It took me over 10 years to find the services that I needed to get out and stay out of the life. It took me over 10 years to stop the cycle of exploitation. And in that time, the world and how we deal with trafficking has changed. We no longer arrest our girls for being victimized. We no longer turn the other cheek, and we no longer say that this is something that is just a public nuisance that we are willing to overlook as long as it doesn't happen in our backyard or on our street. We formed task forces, nonprofits, community-based organizations. We've raised up survivor leaders and nonprofits and advocates and investigative collaboratives in order to fight human trafficking. And these decisions prove that lie that human traffickers use to control their victims, that they're less than human, and that no one cares. It proves that these are just lies. As a survivor, I'm hopeful for this next generation of young people that we're serving, that our work will begin to dismantle those lies and prove to them that there is hope. To my brothers and sisters in exploitation and to the survivors rebuilding your lives, we're here. We've made it. There is a way. There's a path out. And this proves it. Bringing attention to these kinds of cases, saying their names, naming our traffickers, proves that we have come a long way from where we were. So I thank you all for being a part of that movement, of proving to survivors that they're worthy of attention and care for oftentimes the first time in their lives by many people who failed them. So I'm grateful that we get to be a part of this collaborative effort together and that I was able to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alia, for those compelling words. So for all,
I just want to reiterate the strength and courage that woman had and has.
Yeah. Took her 10 years.
It took her 10 years to get the help she needed to get out of that situation.
And it takes resources and help and someone to reach out to too.
The only thing I didn't really agree with that she said was about how the youth nowadays, how she looks forward to them coming up, because I don't. I don't have a lot of faith in our current youth right now. I really don't. This generation, they're so screwed up to me.
Yeah, confused and weak.
Anyway, yeah.
all the young girls and boys out there who are in Alia's
Let me put
situation
back on this.
right now. We do care. The people behind me, the unified front, is there to support you. Please take advantage of these resources. Please reach out. Your life has meaning. It has self-esteem. Please use these opportunities that we are going to provide for you to break from your trafficker. I know it's hard, but we're there for you. And to the pimps, to the traffickers, to the gang members who think that they can profit from this despair, from the bodies of young girls and boys, young men and women, and exploit them for their sexual purposes and their own personal
Let
profit.
this be a warning.
You are now being presented with a united front. We're going to come after you. We're going to arrest you. We're going to prosecute you, and you will be put in jail for as long as possible. That's not a threat. That is a promise from everyone up here. So again,
This
we will
man
now stop at this point, this press conference, open it up to any questions. If you have any questions, please identify yourself. Thank you. Over here.
Fairgrove Freestyle says, that's the disturbing part. Children are so innocent. They are trusting and loving. But you have adults, if you could call them that, who prey on the innocents. Just evil. There is no excuse. Perfectly said, Fairgrove. Perfectly said, my friend.
This problem has been for decades, for more than 40 years, and the residents of this neighborhood are what say the LAPD has to do nothing at all. That's what it said, what they're saying. And in 40 years, what has failed? Because for 40 years after, this problem is not
So I'm going to speak first to address that, and then Amada will speak after me. So number one, I would like everybody to kind of harken back to what occurred in Hollywood. It took decades for us to turn that area around. If you look at Sunset Boulevard now, it's very different from the way it used to look. We're going to apply some of those same mechanisms, but we're updating technology, we're updating tools, we're updating techniques, and we're working cohesively, which has not always necessarily been the case. We're going to work much more cohesively. We're going to investigate these crimes wherever they go, and we're going to bring people back so that they face certain justice. That part of it is going to be a very important part, but I'm going to let Chief Tingerides talk about the environmental concerns, how we're changing the environment. We're going to talk about some of the things that we're doing with our other organizations. I'm going to let her speak on that part for South Bureau.
Thank you. That's a great question. And resources. We are looking at this issue more comprehensively than we ever have in the past.
Well, it's about fucking time. Well, it's about time. They should have been looking at it more comprehensively for the last 20 years. Even longer. How bad does the situation got to get before somebody steps up to the plate and changes the shit? Obviously, it's got to get pretty. Obviously, it's got to be $238 billion a year bad.
When I think human trafficking, I thought like taken. Like
See, now my friend that's here, he said, say what you said, but say it loud.
Well, I always thought that human trafficking was like off the movie Taken, where they kidnap you and go and hide you underground and sell you out to the highest bidder.
See, now that's the common misconception about human trafficking. That is the most common misconception about human trafficking. A person can be trafficked to their neighbor, to the person across town. Human trafficking literally means a person who is used and moved in between criminals, between perpetrators. You can be trafficked in your own hometown. It's not like that. It's not, and that's a common misconception about human trafficking. So yeah.
Human trafficking is the unlawful act of transporting or coercing people in order to benefit from their work or service, typically in the form of forced labor or sexual exploitation.
You know what I mean? But I'm glad you mentioned something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that think that exact same thing. In order to be trafficked, I has to be interstate or out of country. It's not. Yeah, it's not.
And that includes a very close working relationship with our city council districts. And right now, Council President Marquise Harris Dawson.
That's why I paused it this last time. Fairgrow says, someone sells another adult a bag of cannabis will get a worse penalty, as in jail sentence, compared to these foul individuals that engage in this perverted behavior. Justice system needs updating. Here's my example. What's up, steppers? Here's my example. My brother-in-law got sentenced to 36 years in prison for drug trafficking. He didn't sell to underage kids. He brought pounds of drugs in for other adults, and he got sentenced to 36 years. The ironic twist on this is the person that was sentenced right before him was in federal court for his 5th time of production, distribution, and receiving child pornography. His 5th time, and he got sentenced to 5 years in prison. He's already out, probably producing more child pornography, and my brother-in-law will sit in prison the rest of his life for selling other adults drugs. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning drug trafficking, because I'm not. I'm just saying, using this as an example. I know firsthand what I just know from personal experience how screwed up our justice system is.
Has been completely supportive and addressing the environmental concerns along this corridor. Working with the DWP to get LED and lighting along this corridor is extremely important.
I'm sorry. Like,
We're
I
looking
didn't
at
hear
environmental design, no left turns, no right-hand turns. What curbs can we paint red? Can we put planters? Can we put medians? What environmentally can we do to make it less desirable for these traffickers and increase the quality of life for our community members? There's no reason why a young child walking to church or school should have to walk by a woman who's scantily clad with condoms on the street. It's unacceptable. So that
just know, steppers, I'll always love you, kiddo. Just know that you're always my sister, man.
Holistic approach working with our city partners, the technology that I won't go specifically into that we've added to this corridor, the DA promising prosecution, and then the community standing up and demanding more is what's going to make this work and how we're going to fix this.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask directly because you mentioned the public health approach is needed. Who has to provide the solution for these neighborhoods?
Well, when I talk about public health, that goes back to a lot about, what you talked about, the prevention. And also we're working with the Department of Children and Family Services, our mental evaluation units. There's a lot of trauma involved with our victims and with our perpetrators. And if we don't get to the root cause.
But I just got to say this. Most when you hear about this stuff, everybody says, reach out to the Department of Human Services. Well, they're a huge part of the problem as well. I know it sucks to say that, but they are. When you have almost 60,000 children a year come missing out of foster care that are never seen again, well, that's got to be some inside work, isn't it? Because the Department of Human Services are in charge of the foster care systems. You don't get put in foster care if you're not involved in the Department of Human Services. So there is a huge problem within the Department of Human Services. So that brings me back to the point that, was it Fairgrow or was it Temper? That about the corruption. I don't remember which one of you guys said it, but that brings me back to that comment. Like, that's how relevant it is. That's exactly it. There's so many people on the inside of this shit that there needs to be a huge sweep done on the inside. Since I got it paused. In Brazil, organs are sold. Organs are sold. That's one reason why the numbers are so high. Some of these missing are dead. And that's a fact. This market exists among other factors. Yes, absolutely. Fairgrow, this is exactly what I'm trying to do, my friend. This is the main thing I'm trying to do. This is the main reason why I started this channel. Fairgrow says, if the penalty was really harsh, it might deter people from such behavior. But they have even tried to normalize this behavior as sexual preferences and part of the LGBTQ, adding children's lovers to that. I said this exact same thing 100 million times. If you make the penalty for a crime so harsh, like as in you're going to be executed, it would automatically deter so many people from doing this crime. No, it's not going to fix the problem, but it can help a lot of innocent people from becoming victims in the first place.
You can arrest as many people as you want.
Yeah, you can arrest as many people as you want, but if you just let them out of jail, there's no consequence for that crime. So where's the deterrent to get these people to see that they don't want to be committing this crime anymore? When a pedophile can get a slap on the hand and walk out of a courtroom for ruining a child's life, where's the deterrent? Where's the deterring factor? Where's the punishment? There ain't one. I never stopped doing anything that I wasn't punished for. Like I can tell you right now, I had my ass whooped by my dad 4 times in my life. 4 times in my lifetime. And all 4 of those times, I never and have still never done what I did to get my ass whooped by my dad. Why? Because I knew if I did it again, my dad was going to whoop my ass even more. It's true. That's why the operations could go through so smoothly and undetected. About the kids in foster care? Yep, absolutely. Fairgrow says that's effing insane. Providing product to willing and counseling adults and consenting adults and cause no injury as people consume safely gets 36 years, half a lifetime, missing out on so much family life. Like, I'll be in my 60s before he gets out of prison. My sister's older than me, so she'll be even older than that. My parents will be dead and gone by the time he gets out of prison for selling somebody drugs. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it's a great comparison. Then you sentence a repeat child pornography offender to 5 years. What the fuck?
I think the judge should be an accomplice or a conspiracy.
Yeah. And why do they do that? Because nobody holds them accountable. Dude, I've wrote so many letters. I've sent so many emails to judges and prosecuting attorneys when I hear cases like when I think they dropped the ball on a case. I have. That's how we can all start making a difference. Reach out to your prosecuting attorneys, to your judges. Tell them you're watching. They're being watched. Your job as a judge is on the line. Because our government system is designed that we vote them into to hold that position. They don't just get to become a judge because they want to be a judge. No, they have to be voted in to be a judge.
So if you're voted in, you should do your job.
So if you're voted in, they need to do their job. And if they're not doing their job, we need to vote them out.
Mm-hmm. Get somebody in there that will.
Absolutely.
Cause of why this is happening, we're not going to make a dent. We can prosecute all we want, but we have to prevent the act from happening in the first place. And we do that through schools, through education, through mental health, and it starts in the families. It starts in the homes. And that's what I mean about the public health approach. Having county and city resources to address the mental health, the physical trauma that comes with this is extremely important in the prevention of it.
Other questions? Yes. So the message is to take a press conference out of the Hall of Justice in a media room and bring it to, as it's been described, the epicenter of human trafficking. To bring the media, all these cameras here, to show what's going on here, not in some media room. And to then convey that message out to the public. And as you've heard, it has to be a unified response. We cannot prosecute our way out of this. It has to be, we have to involve ourselves in prevention, education, rescue, and actually try to rescue these young girls and boys, eventually recovery, and making sure that they actually can recover from the trauma they've experienced. Enforcement is one part of that equation to go after the traffickers themselves. But we won't solve this problem by ourselves. We have to enlist the support of the public. And nothing gets the support of the public more directly than seeing the problem firsthand. And I invite people out from throughout Los Angeles County, come down to the Figueroa corridor. It is an absolutely eye-opening experience to see what's going on in not their community, but your community. And experience it yourself. You will feel the disgust of what we are seeing out here, but it will hopefully compel you to action, to actually want to do something about it. I also want to, I was remiss in not introducing three of the people from the district attorney's office who are here. Our head deputy district attorney, Guillermo Santiso, he's the head of our sex crimes division. Our deputy district attorney, Emily Chai, also from our sex crimes division, and our victim service representative, because the DA's office has victim service representatives that will work directly with the victims in any criminal case. And we have here today Rosario Maestral. So again, are there any further questions? We'll take one last question in the back.
Not only happens out on the street, I have next week thinking about private clubs, and maybe, if you live in apartment complex community, you might see somebody, a bunch of people running in and out of said apartment. Can the public, see this task force, more into going into, a zip line, you see somebody, a whole bunch of people coming into your neighbor's apartment or something like an Airbnb, and that's as far as the task force, that be worked into it, because if you force, your eyesight on this, I'm just saying, it gets pushed on to other aspects, like a club or something.
Thank you for bringing that up. So we're here on Figueroa Corridor, but within Operation South Bureau, which is my command, we are addressing this across South Los Angeles. So everything south of the 10 freeway down to San Pedro in the port. Every quarter, we are having community awareness meetings, and we just had one 2 months ago in the harbor area to talk.
So this is just a part of Los Angeles. This is only the southern corridor of Los Angeles. So those numbers, the 2,800 criminals that they busted, that's just in the southern corridor of Los Angeles.
What about the northern or east or west?
Talk about the massage parlors, the Airbnbs, and some of that activity that is not as visible on the street as it is here in the Figueroa corridor. So yes, this human trafficking task force is looking at every aspect of it, even outside of the corridor. But if you see that occurring, or of locations where that is occurring, you can always send a message through Crime Stoppers. It's anonymous. A detective or an officer will respond and address that tip to help bring awareness to that issue.
Like something, reach out.
Yes. So if you suspect somebody is trafficking somebody else, this is what I say. It's better to think you've seen something and report it and be embarrassed if it didn't happen than to see something, than to suspect something and it actually being what's going on and not saying anything. It's better to be embarrassed than be wrong. Yeah. I'll do it 1,000,000 times over just for that one time I was right.
Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it a year?
Yeah.
One house and move around the corner.
Yeah.
Sure. So from an investigative standpoint, I want to make clear that we will follow traffickers wherever they go. That's just a different mode of operation. I will tell you right now that we have major investigations going on in this region regarding exactly that activity with our partners. I'm not going to get into it any more than that. If someone is out here trafficking and they decide to move into a location somewhere away from the track, and we have them, dead to rights on their illegal activity out here on the track, and they go to, let's say, another jurisdiction, that was the purpose of my earlier statement. We're going to follow them wherever they go, investigate, arrest them, and bring them to justice. Not only for the activity that occurred here, but for the activity that occurs wherever they go to. Our partners standing behind me and with me are in lockstep with continuing these investigations in a linear fashion to make sure that we're getting all of these charges lined up so that when we bring it to our prosecuting agency, we bring an effective case that can be prosecuted and we can bring them to justice. But we are fine.
So what he just said is they're standing united. They see a problem. They are all attacking it. They stand together as one. That's the way it needs to be.
Following those investigations wherever they go, and we currently have a number of ongoing investigations in exactly that kind of activity where people are working both in the street and in various places throughout the region. And we're going to follow up on those investigations, arrest them, and bring them to justice.
All right. Well, I think we're going to take, if you have questions afterwards, please feel free to come up for any one-on-one interviews. But thank you all for being here today.
Okay. Hi, Miss Angie. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you for a minute. I know I've been neglecting a bunch of people too, but yeah. So I'll go ahead and open up the panel. anybody wants to come up and we can talk about this. If not, I'm going to get on up out of here. Miss Angie, do you got any insight on what? Do you got anything you'd like to add to what we just watched or listened to? Tipper says, studying the mafia infiltration start. I see the same thing in this as well. Have the right people to look left and on your payroll, then you can run for years. Hi, Latoya. Well, thanks for being here, though, Miss Angie. I do appreciate it. What's up, number 2 with fries?
They said it was the Alameda corridor.
Huh?
The Alameda corridor is what they said.
She just said the southern quarter. Yeah, the southern quarter. Well, if nobody wants to come up and talk about this topic, I'm going to get on up out of here. I'll give it a few more minutes. Absolutely, Latoya. Tell away, girl. Links in the chat, just so you know. Who told you that, Latoya? No.
Oh, I heard Dana come out.
It's Desley. Who's Noni? Yeah, I don't know who that is. Well, both of you want to come up here and you guys can hash it out? You want to talk about it? Get things worked out or what? Oh, you're Noni? Oh, okay. Well, why don't you both come up here and we can straighten this out? How about that? You don't need StreamYard to come up on the panel. Oh, I didn't know that was possible. Well, tell me about the situation. Let me hear it. Has she got kicked from StreamYard all around, or just from here from StreamYard? Anyway. I just got a question there for you, number 2 with fries. If your name is number 2 with fries, why is your avatar picture a hamburger? I'm just wondering. Oh, because it's the number 2. Okay, I got it. How the hell do you get kicked from StreamYard permanently all around? I've seen some pretty wild shit take place on StreamYard, and those people are still here. I mean, hell, I'm still here. Yeah, I should have just answered my own question without saying it out loud. Sometimes I do that, you know. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But yeah, that's one I'd like to know is how the hell you get booted from StreamYard. How do you get banned from StreamYard itself? That's crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know it's possible.
Oh, the rest home Latoya stays at won't let her get on YouTube StreamYard. Oh, well. I guess you got to abide by the rules, right? Now, I don't know. I don't know number two with fries all that much. I mean, I've seen him around. I've seen number two with fries around the streets of YouTube for the last little while. They don't really strike me as the type of person to just come up and say, well, I don't care about you, so get out of my face. Type of person. So Latoya used to be your neighbor. She now lives in Arlington, Texas, next to the Cowboy Stadium. It's got to suck on Sundays some days, huh?
That'd be sweet.
Yes, get to know what? So a regular Android won't allow you to come up on panel? That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Unless the rest home that she's staying at monitors what she's doing all the time, then I could see that. Well, I'm not going to post that comment on there, Latoya, because I don't want to dox you completely out, you know. Okay, when did you move, Latoya? Good for you, by the way, as well, Latoya. Yeah, if I lived in Texas, I'd move out of there too. I'm just saying.
I would love it. I'd be loving it living right next to the stadium.
You wouldn't have anything to cheer at. See, Latoya, for somebody who doesn't care about you, they sure seem to care about you. Maybe you just took something out of context. Maybe you just misunderstood what this person was saying to you. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe it's yours for the misunderstanding. Well, with that being said, I am going to get out here. With that being said,
hello.
I am going to get out of here. I'm going to get my ass to work. Do me two favors, everybody. Number one, try to love one another right now because we might not get a chance to do so tomorrow. In fact, there are people that are here today that won't get the chance to do so, so we might as well take advantage of it while we can. And number two, tell your friends about me because you're going to want to know. Get to know. Laters. All you fucking haters. See you fucking laters. All right, Miss Angie, I appreciate it. Later, haters.